What is up, guys? It's that time of year again. This is going to be my top 10 players to watch at the RLCS LAN Season 4. But a couple of honorable mentions to start things off as usual. And the first is going to be Kurnovi, who has not had a good year on the statistics, but he is the returning Season 1 champion. And the reason that I have to put him in this list is because the story going into Season 1 was just so similar to this one. They were the underdogs, but the fan favorites. And if G2 can replicate the iBuy Power Season 1, then you never know. Maybe Kurnovi can make the miracle happen yet again. Turbopulse is going to be another honorable mention. He is just one of those really consistent players. I just think he's going to play well, but he's probably not going to be the standout player for GFE, even if they do go and win the whole thing. This team's just so stacked with talent. It's really... I think I'm looking at the other members to see more of an indication of how well GFE are doing. But yeah, Turbo, returning champion. He's the current world champion, so can he get the back-to-back? That is the question. Last honorable mention is going to be Torment, the anchor for Cloud9, sort of the backbone that they build on. Gimmick and Squishy do most of the unpredictable stuff, and Torment is just extremely, extremely reliable. I expect him, just like Turbopulse, to show up and be extremely solid. But like I said with Turbo, I think we're going to be looking at the other members of his team to get an indication of how well Cloud9 are playing. Because Torment is he's just always there doing Torment things. So he's going to be great, but I don't think, I think, well, it goes out saying who the main person to look at in Cloud9 is. Anyway, into the top 10. Violent Panda, number 10. GFE won the EU playoffs when Panda played well. Then when he didn't show up at the Gnarly Invitational, that's a Northern Arena LAN, GFE completely crumbled. They lost 3-0 to Ghost. So I think, like I was just talking about with Turbopulse, I think Violent Panda is a much better player to look at if you want to pay attention, or you want to get a good idea of how well GFE are playing, what sort of GFE is going to show up. This is the man to look at initially. But yeah, he's a great player to watch as well these days, just for his rebound potential, very creative, usually the main assister for this team. So he'll be doing plenty of flashy things as well, I'm sure, which is another reason, of course, to keep your eye on any player. But yeah, will GFE just go and win the LAN if Panda plays well? It is a possibility, you never know. Jacob is going to be number 9. I gave him an honorable mention last time I did one of these lists, and that is not why I'm putting him in this time. Just genuinely, I think this could be his year. This is the first year that he goes to an RLCS LAN not being the NA first seed. And I think that could be very interesting for Jacob, and also for his teammate Fireburner, but mainly for Jacob, because he's really the creative player, one of the most creative players in the world, but certainly the most creative player and the most free player on NRG. They really just let him do whatever he wants, and it can ruin other teams, especially on this lineup, especially with Fireburner, them being one of the oldest duos in Rocket League history at this point. But yeah, Jacob, he is making his 4th LAN appearance. He's got ridiculous experience at this time. Well, 4th RLCS LAN appearance. He's been to numerous other LANs as well. But himself, Garrett, and Fireburner are the only players who have come back to every RLCS LAN. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to keep an eye on as well. Just to you know, really gauge, are they going to keep going better and better? Because last time they got their best finish yet, but if they want to improve, they need to come 2nd or 1st. So Chaussette is going to be number 8. Similar story to Violent Panda, but backwards. So Violent Panda, he performed well in the playoffs, and GFE won the playoffs in Europe. Then he underperformed in Gnarly, and GFE got smashed. They got 3-0'd by Ghost, a team that I really don't expect that they thought they were going to lose to. But Chaussette is the other way around. He didn't show up in playoffs at all, and PSG crumbled. They lost initially to Gale Force, and then they got reverse swept by Mocket. But then in Gnarly, PSG of course came 2nd, which is a great result for them. I'm sure they would love to go one better, eye on the prize, but that was with Chaussette being, I think, the main man for PSG. So I've got my eyes firmly on him to see exactly how well PSG are doing. I think just like Violent Panda, if he doesn't show up, there's no chance for his team. Absolutely none whatsoever. It's going to be Magnus, number 7, the number 1 player in terms of points per game during league play. And although he wasn't quite as impressive in the playoffs and in the Gnarly Invitational, he still had pretty solid stats. He was kind of in the mix. But yeah, if he can just show up like he did online at in group play, like, he's by far the best player statistically out of all the LAN boys, Niels Cock was also up there for Europe, but of course he didn't make the LAN. And it's important to always look at the matchups. You know, maybe Magnus is picking up lots of points by smashing on weaker teams, and he does that at the Gfinity Elite Series as well. Like, great goal scorer against players who are much worse than him. But don't be fooled. I think Magnus is a phenomenal player. Came second at the 2v2 Invitational behind Violent Panda and K-Dop. And he's now one of the longest standing duos with Mets and Oris, because they have played since, I can't remember how long they played together. They've been together for ages. He's definitely one to watch for me. Number 6 is going to be K-Dop, one of the probably best players in Rocket League, full stop. If we don't just think about 3v3, think about every bracket, every game mode, and we don't just think about RLCS, but just think about Rocket League generally, he may just be the best player. I think at this time there's a few players who could rival him, but he's certainly up there. He just gets to the top of any leaderboard he wants to get to. Incredibly hardworking, and it shows. I think he's also maybe still the highest earner in Rocket League history. Don't know if anybody in Cloud9 just surpassed him with their recent win at Gnarly. But yeah, he carried Precision Z in Season 2 RLCS. He's the runner-up from Season 3, missing out on the title by a single game. And he's going to want it just as much, if not more than anybody, because of all the second place finishes that GFE have had. So I think if GFE win, K-Dop is probably going to be MVP. That's just my prediction. He's just such a ridiculous goal-scoring threat. He scares people with his power shot so much that they just pre-jump everything. It is going to be Mets and Oris number 5 though, who was the highest player, or the highest points per game from the playoffs and the Gnarly Invitational for European teams. Note that's for European teams, because NA did perform much better than Europe at Gnarly. And like I said earlier, he's one of the longest standing duos with with Magnus rather, and I think that's really going to help them moving forward. And the thing to also remember about Metza is that he's the only player on Method who stepped up his stats, has stepped up his performance, moving from league play into the playoffs and into Gnarly. Alota and Magnus dipped a little bit, and Magnus obviously he went from first statistically to somewhere in the middle of the pack, which isn't terrible. But Metza, you know, he went from somewhere maybe lower down to being one of the highest players in the stats, and it's clear to see why. He's a phenomenal player. Very, very fast, very threatening, just very, very solid all around. He's been working his grind game recently as well. But Bluey's going to be, actually, a spoiler alert, my highest rated player for EU on this list. No EU bias here. And if PSG win the LAN, I said this about if GFE win the LAN, I think K-Dop will be MVP. If PSG win the LAN, I think Bluey will be MVP. PSG sort of looked to Bluey to be what Devo was to Mocket, what Devo was to Northern Gaming. But the real question for Bluey is, will he show up on the big stage like Devo did? I mean, Devo is a rookie going into Season 2, like many players were, and he, you know, maybe was the MVP of the whole tournament, in my opinion. He might have actually been MVP that year, although he didn't get it. But Bluey, he is the player who PSG need to basically get past what is usually much more defensive approach in RLCS LAN. RLCS LAN statistically is extremely defensive compared to other events, and they're going to need Bluey to break through that. Now, number 3 is going to be Garrett, second highest points per game in the playoffs in Gnarly, behind Squishy Muffins. The most consistent LAN player ever, in my opinion. Of course, carrying when he was in Orbit, and then slotting in with NRG and NRG. I think it was NRG when he joined them, Fireburner and Jacob. And everybody's wondering, is he just going to become another third for them like other players have in the past? But no, he actually, I think, is their best player. He's their most solid player, and you need that when you have someone like Jacob in your team, who's just going to be doing crazy things all over the field. But Garrett, if he can just continue to do exactly what he has been doing for the past 3 RLCS LANs, he'll certainly be a player to watch. He's been so consistent. I've put him in every top 10 list that I've ever done. He's always been a player that I thought was going to show up, and he always has. That's why I'm putting him in my top 3 here. Still, by far the highest statistical player for NRG, even to this day. But slightly, I think, more valuable for his team, just ever so slightly, is Squishy, who, you know, MVP of the Gnarly LAN. He is the highest points per game in the playoffs and the Gnarly Invitational across every LAN boy. He's the carry for Cloud9, maybe the best player in the world at the moment. Back-to-back 2-time LAN champion. will he be able to deal with all of the expectation that puts on his shoulders? Because everybody knows he's kind of robotic on stage. He doesn't really show much emotion, and that works for a lot of players, definitely works for Squishy. But is he going to be able to deal with the ridiculous pressure that RLCS has? Because the other LANs, you know, the players obviously take it seriously and they value them, but they're not as important. RLCS is the one that they all want, and Squishy is going to want this more than anyone. So can he deal with that pressure? If he does, then he's no doubt going to be, I think, the best player in the tournament, because he's been the best player in both of the last LAN tournaments that he's played, in my opinion. But just due to how much he carries his team, and due to his ridiculous, you know, individual performances, despite his team's struggles, I have to put JKnaps at #1 player to watch. He's a phenomenon. He's 70 points per game average higher than, well, he's 70 points per game individually higher than his team average. 70. I see 70 above both of his teammates, Kronovi and Rizzo. So if either Kronovi or Rizzo can show up, and if G2 can have that miracle run like IBP had in the Season 1, no doubt in my mind JKnaps is going to be LAN MVP by a mile, because this guy's just waiting to pop off. He's just waiting for his moment, and he's certainly one of the best players in the world. Ridiculous goal scoring potential, is so fast, never puts a foot wrong, and he was certainly clutch in the playoffs, although gnarly G2 didn't really show up quite as well. I know they had some computer issues and such. They have been boot camping though, so keep an eye out for them. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Going to be great watching the RLCS this weekend. Let me know your predictions in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.
I'll take you down there for 25 schmickles.